Okay, so this one, he's not very straight, is he? Let's line him up a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to get started because I'm just super excited to read this. So I can't wait. So obviously, first of all, we have Mug. So Mug doesn't have anything in it today, but it's just so cute. And that's actually compliments my lovely Em, my friend, who got me this, especially for story time. So it's really sweet and it's just absolutely adorable. I really love it. No one's allowed to use it apart from me. So it's really, really cute. I'm gonna put it up here. We'll move the box. Have him looking down. There he is. So it's really sweet. And then t-shirt, obviously. So t-shirt today. I quite like this whole having a themed t-shirt. So this is just being me. So this is actually a really cute t-shirt, but it's also the only Winnie the Pooh t-shirt. So, and we've also got some special friends today because that was so much fun doing having Peter Pan with Nana. So obviously we have Pooh Bear, and Pooh Bear is my travel bear, so he comes everywhere that I go. But I have some others. So we'll bring in. So this is Eeyore, and this is Christopher Robin Eeyore. And Eeyore came from Disneyland Paris, which is kind of cool. So he's very cute. He's travelled a bit. We're not going to have any room for me in this, by the look of it. They're all going to be here. So we'll put Eeyore there, so he can still be seen. And then we have Tigger. Yay! So these are the cute ones from the Christopher Robin film, so it's quite nice. And then Tigger is also from Disneyland Paris. So I wonder if you can actually, we'll squeeze everybody in. It's probably not a good idea to put him there. We'll put you there because you'll fall down. Should have done this before we started. And obviously we have Pooh Bear. This is Christopher Robin Pooh Bear, and this is Disney Travel Pooh Bear. They've all got name tags as well. But Pooh Bear is from Disney World, Florida. So a bit of a jet setter, aren't you? She's so cuddly. Please, everyone should get these. They're just so adorable. But yeah, I don't think we have any room left for me at all, but you know, everybody else is here, so that's okay. So yeah, I'll sit here. Hopefully you can't hear me. Brilliant. Okay, so let's actually get started now that I've been pushed off the seat from everybody here. But today we're going to read the extracts from Winnie the Pooh, and we're going to kind of like a little bit of a jump, because I said we were going to look at the House at Pooh Corner, which is chapter 10, which is lovely, my sleeve bookmark. But I'm actually going to start with an extract from the Winnie the Pooh book, which I thought would be really nice. So I'll start with that one. So this is actually a really lovely copy of, it says a complete Winnie the Pooh, but it's Winnie the Pooh in the House of Pooh Corner. And it's also got the illustrations from Shepard, which is really nice. Is that right? I did say that right, that's good. And obviously it's all by Milne. So I really hope you enjoy it, especially for anyone who is a Pooh Bear fan. So Winnie the Pooh, and this is the introduction. So we'll let the sleeve close up now. If you happen to have read another book about Christopher Robin, you may remember that he once had a swan. Or the swan had Christopher Robin, I don't know which, and that he used to call his swan Pooh. That was a long time ago, and when we said goodbye, we took the name with us, as we didn't think the swan would want it anymore. Well, when Edward Bear said that he would like an exciting name all to himself, Christopher Robin said at once, without stopping to think, that he was Winnie the Pooh, and he was. So, as I have explained the Pooh part, I will now explain the rest of it. You can't be in London for long without going to the zoo. There are some people who begin the zoo at the beginning, called weighing, and walk as quickly as they can past every cage until they get to the one called weigh out. But the nicest people go straight to the animal they love the most and stay there. So when Christopher Robin goes to the zoo, he goes to where the polar bears are, and he whispers something to the third keeper from the left, and doors are unlocked, and we wander through dark passages and up steep stairs, until at last we come to the special cage. And the cage is opened, and out trots something brown and furry. And with a happy cry of, "Oh, bear!" Christopher Robin rushes into its arms. Now this bear's name is Winnie, which shows what a good name for bears it is. But the funny thing is that we can't remember whether Winnie is called after Pooh or Pooh after Winnie. We did know once, but we've forgotten. I had written as far as this when Piglet looked up and said in his squeaky voice, "What about me?" "My dear Piglet," I said, "the whole book is about you." "So it's about Pooh," he squeaked. "You see what it is. He is jealous because he thinks Pooh is having a grand introduction all to himself. Pooh is the favourite, of course, there's no denying it. But Piglet comes in for a good many things which Pooh misses, because you can't take Pooh to school without everybody knowing it. But Piglet is so small that he slips into a pocket, where it's very comfortable to fill him when you are not quite sure whether twice 7 is 12 or 22. Sometimes he slips out and has a good look in the inkpot, and in this way he has got more education than Pooh. But Pooh doesn't mind. Some have brains and some haven't, he says, and there it is. And now all the others are saying, what about us? So perhaps the best thing to do is to stop writing introductions and get on with the book. A.A. Milne. So now that we have started at the beginning, we're going to skip over to the end. And we're going to move to the house at Pooh Corner, chapter 10, in which Christopher Robin and Pooh come to an enchanted place and we leave them there. So, make sure I can hold the book for you. Christopher Robin was going away. Nobody knew why he was going. Nobody knew where he was going. Indeed, nobody even knew why he knew that Christopher Robin was going away. But somehow or other, everybody in the forest felt it was happening at last. Even the smallest of small, a friend and relation of Rabbit's, who thought he had once seen Christopher Robin's foot, but couldn't quite be sure because perhaps it was something else. Even S of A told himself that things were going to be different. And late and early, two other friends and relations said, "Well, early," and "well, late," to each other in such a hopeless sort of way that it really didn't seem any good waiting for the answer. One day, when he felt that he couldn't wait any longer, Rabbit brained out a notice, and this is what it said. "Notice a meeting of everybody will meet at the house at Pooh Corner to pass a resolution by order kept to the left, signed Rabbit." He had to write this out 2 or 3 times before he could get the resolution to look like what he thought it was going to look when he began to spell it. But when at last he was finished, he took it round to everybody and read it out to them, and they all said they would come. "Well," said Eeyore that afternoon, when he saw them all walking up to his house, "this is a surprise. Am I asked too?" "Don't mind, Eeyore," whispered Rabbit to Pooh. I told him all about it this morning. Everybody said, "How do you do?" to Eeyore, and Eeyore said that he didn't, not to notice, and then they sat down, and as soon as they were all sitting down, Rabbit stood up again. "We all know why we're here," he said, "but I have asked my friend Eeyore." "That's me," said Eeyore, grand. "I have asked him to propose a resolution," and he sat down. "Now then, Eeyore," he said. "Don't bustle me," said Eeyore, getting up slowly. "Don't now then me." He took out a piece of paper from behind his ear and unfolded it. "Nobody knows anything about this," he went on. "This is a surprise." He coughed in an important way and began again. "What nots and etceteras. Before I begin, or perhaps I should say before I end, I have a piece of poetry to read to you. Hitherto, hitherto, a long word meaning. Well, you'll see what it means directly. Hitherto, as I was saying, all the poetry in the forest has been written by Pooh, a bear with a pleasing manner, but a positively startling lack of brain. The poem, which I am about to read to you, was written by Eeyore, or myself, in a quiet moment. If somebody will take Rue's bullseye away from him and wake up Al, we shall all be able to enjoy it. I call it poem. This was it. Christopher Robin is going. Well, at least I think he is. Where? Nobody knows. But he is going. I mean, he goes. To rhyme with nose. Do we care? To rhyme with where. We do. Very much. I haven't got a rhyme for that. Is in the second line yet. Bother. Now I haven't got a rhyme for bother. Bother. Those two bothers will have to rhyme with each other. Bother. The fact is, this is more difficult than I thought. I ought, very good indeed. I ought to begin again, but it is easier to stop. Christopher Robin, goodbye. Good. I and all your friends all your friend send. Very awkward this, it keeps going wrong. Well, anyway, we send our love. End. If anybody wants to clap, said Eeyore when he had read this, now is the time to do it. They all clapped. Thank you, said Eeyore, unexpected and gratifying, if little lacking in smack. It's much better than mine, said Pooh admiringly, and he really thought it was. Well, explained Eeyore, modestly, it was meant to be. The resolution, said Rabbit, is that we all sign it and take it to Christopher Robin. So it was signed by Pooh, Wool, Piglet, or Rabbit, Kanga, Lot, Smudge. And they all went off to Christopher Robin's house with it. Hello, everybody, said Christopher Robin. Hello, Pooh. They all said hello and felt awkward and unhappy suddenly, because it was a sort of goodbye they were saying, and they didn't want to think about it. They stood around and waited for someone else to speak, and they nudged each other and said, Go on. And gradually Eeyore was nudged to the front, and the others crowded behind him. What is it, Eeyore? asked Christopher Robin. Eeyore swished his tail from side to side so as to encourage himself and begin. Christopher Robin, he said, we've come to give you, it's called written by, but because we've heard, I mean, we all know, well, you see, that, to put it shortly as possible, is what it is. He turned around angrily on the others and said, "Everybody crowds around, so in this forest there is no space. I never saw a more spreading lot of animals in my life, and in all the wrong places. Can't you see that Christopher Robin wants to be alone? I'm going." And he humped off. Not quite knowing why, the others began edging away, and when Christopher Robin had finished reading the poem and was looking up to say thank you, only Pooh was left. "It's a comforting sort of thing to have," said Christopher Robin, folding up the paper and putting it in his pocket. "Come on, Pooh." And he walked off quickly. "Where are we going?" said Pooh, hurrying after him and wondering whether it was to be an explore or a what shall I do about you know what. "Nowhere," said Christopher Robin. So they began going there, and after they had walked a little way, Christopher Robin said, "What do you like doing best in the world, Pooh?" "Well," said Pooh, "what I like best." And then he had to stop and think, because although eating honey was a very good thing to do, there was a moment just before you begin to eat, in which was better than when you were, but he didn't know what it was called. And then he thought that being with Christopher Robin was a very good thing to do, and having Piglet near was a very friendly thing to have. And so, when he had thought it out, he said, "What I like to do in the whole world is me and Piglet going to see you, and you saying, 'What about a little something?' and me saying, 'Well, I shouldn't mind a little something, should you, Piglet?' And it being a hummy sort of day outside, and the birds singing." "I like that too," said Christopher Robin. "But what I like doing best is nothing." "How do you do nothing?" asked Pooh, after he had wondered for a long time. "Well, it's when people call out to you just as you're going off to do it. 'What are you going to do, Christopher Robin?' And you say, 'Oh, nothing.' And then you go and do it." "Oh, I see," said Pooh. "This is a nothing sort of thing that we're doing now." "Oh, I see," said Pooh again. "It means just going along, listening to all the things you can't hear, and not bothering." "Oh," said Pooh. They walked on, thinking of this and that, and by they came to an enchanted place on the very top of the forest called Galleon's Lap, which is 60-something trees in a circle. And Christopher Robin knew that it was enchanted because nobody had ever been able to count whether it was 63 or 64, not even when he tied a piece of string around each tree after he had counted it. Being enchanted, its floor was not like the floor of the forest, gorse and bracken and heather, but close-set grass, quiet and smooth and green. It was the only place in the forest where you could sit down carelessly without getting up again almost at once and looking for somewhere else. Sitting there, they could see the whole world spread out until it reached the sky, and whatever there was all the world over was with them in Galleon's lap. Suddenly, Christopher Robin began to tell Pooh about some of the things. People called kings and queens, and something called factors, and a place called Europe, and an island in the middle of the sea where no ships came, and how you make a suction pump if you want to, and when knights were knighted, and what comes from Brazil. And Pooh, he's back against one of the 60-something trees, and his paws folded in front of him, said, "Oh, and I don't know," and thought how wonderful it would be to have a real brain which could tell you things. And by, Christopher Robin came to an end of the things and was silent, and he sat there looking out over the world and wishing it wouldn't stop. But Pooh was thinking too, and he said suddenly to Christopher Robin, "Is it a very grand thing to be an afternoon, what you said?" "A what?" said Christopher Robin lazily, as he listened to something else. "On a horse," explained Pooh. "A knight." "Oh, was that it?" said Pooh. "I thought it was is it as grand as a king and factors and all the other things you said?" "Well, it's not as grand as a king," said Christopher Robin, and then, as Pooh seemed disappointed, he added quickly, "But it's grander than factors. Could a bear be one?" "Of course he could," said Christopher Robin. "I'll make you one." And he took a stick and touched Pooh on the shoulder and said, "Rise, Sir Pooh the Bear, most faithful of all my knights." So Pooh rose and sat down and said thank you, which is the proper thing to say when you have been made a knight, and he went into a dream again, in which he and Sir Pump and Sir Brazil and Factors lived together with a horse and were faithful knights, all except Factors, who looked after the horse, to good King Christopher Robin. And every now and then he shook his head and said to himself, "I'm not getting it right." Then he began to think of all the things Christopher Robin would want to tell him when he came back from wherever he was going to, and how muddling it would be for a bear of very little brain to try and get them right in his mind. "So perhaps," he said sadly to himself, "Christopher Robin won't tell me any more." And he wondered if being a faithful knight meant that you just went on being faithful without being told things. Then suddenly again, Christopher Robin, who was still looking out to the world with his chin in his hands, called out, "Pooh?" "Yes," said Pooh. "Well, Pooh." "Yes, Christopher Robin." "I'm not going to do nothing any more." "Never again?" "Well, not so much. They don't let you." Pooh waited for him to go on, but he was silent again. "Yes, Christopher Robin?" said Pooh helpfully. "Pooh, when when I'm not doing nothing, will you come up here sometimes?" "Just me?" "Yes, Pooh." "Will you be here too?" "Yes, Pooh, I really will be. I promise I will be." "That's good," said Pooh. "Pooh, promise you won't forget about me ever, not even when I'm 100. Pooh thought for a little. How old shall I be then? 99. Pooh nodded. "I promise," he said. Still with his eyes on the world, Christopher Robin put out a hand and felt for Pooh's paw. "Pooh," said Christopher Robin earnestly, if I'm not quite—" He stopped and tried again. "Pooh, whatever happens, you will understand, won't you?" "Understand what?" "Oh, nothing." He laughed and jumped to his feet. "Come on." "Where?" said Pooh. "Anywhere," said Christopher Robin. So they went off together, but wherever they go, and whatever happens to them on the way, in that enchanted place on the top of the forest, a little boy and his bear will always be playing. And that's the end of the house at Pooh Corner. I have to share some of these illustrations with you for anyone who hasn't had the pleasure of seeing any of the Shepard illustrations. So there's some, I'll come a little bit closer. So there's a lovely one there of everybody together. And if anyone was paying attention to when the resolution was being signed, this is a lovely little page because you can see that, if I hold it there, you can see where everyone's been writing their names and the spelling of everybody's name. So I'll bring it a little bit closer so you can actually see that. Obviously some favourites there are Al and Eeyore. And obviously poor Tigger, who can't spell his name, so he just put Blot. And then there's a little smudge, which is kind of nice. That must be Roo down there, which is very cute. And actually, as I've just seen, which you guys probably will notice really quickly, was actually underneath their pictures is their actual signatures. So if I just put that there. So that's quite nice too. And there's a lovely 2-page spread of them meeting Christopher Robin, which is really lovely actually. And then there's some more, but I'm not going to spoil them because obviously I think, you know, everyone should definitely have a copy of this. And now for some, now you're going to be subjected to some Winnie the Pooh trivia. So obviously that might sound very familiar to anybody who hasn't read this book. That's because they used that chapter as the opening scene for the film Christopher Robin. Obviously they adapted it a little bit. So for anyone who wants a little bit more Winnie the Pooh now, it might be nice to go and watch that because it'd be a nice follow on from this, because it's just the next steps in the story, which is really lovely because they've actually just expanded on that a bit more. And also for anyone who, especially for the introduction with where the bear's name came from and things like that, if anyone hasn't seen the film Goodbye Christopher Robin, I highly recommend that film. It's a beautiful biography into how the stories were written and about A.A. Milne and the story behind him and the real Christopher Robin. So that's really lovely. And then I suppose the last thing to do is to make sure that anybody who goes to New York or who has been to New York, make sure you visit the library because the original Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, your friends are there on display. So that's always really nice. So I hope you enjoyed that reading and and the Winnie the Pooh trivia that came with it. Make sure you check out the YouTube recording of this. So I'm going to add on some pictures of when I met Winnie the Pooh, which was really lovely. Oh, and also when Pooh Bear met Winnie the Pooh, which is really nice. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed that. It's one of my favourites. It's really lovely to share it with some people. So thank you so much for taking some time out on your Saturday. I tried to do it on Saturday because I didn't want to disturb anybody's socially distanced lockdown Father's Day celebrations tomorrow. But thank you so much for joining, and I really hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you next week for the next story. Thank you. Bye.